The first one is that Aaron Rodgers has officially signed with the Pittsburgh Steelers. So, they're going through a free agency. They don't end up making a splash at quarterback. They see Justin Fields and Russell Wilson sign elsewhere. They've got Mason Rudolph on the roster. They don't draft a quarterback. They had multiple opportunities to draft basically anybody that wasn't Cam Ward. We thought Shedeur Sanders would be the target for them, perhaps even in the first round, maybe the second round. Well, they didn't have a second round pick because of DK Metcalf, but we're like, okay, well, there's no way Shedeur's making it to the third. He does. They still pass on him. They don't even get a quarterback until the sixth round, and we go, okay, what's going on here? They must know that Rodgers is in hand, and then it became this whole, okay, well, if you just know it, why is this not official yet? And maybe it was Aaron Rodgers just did not want to participate in OTAs, and he didn't want to get yelled at for not being at OTAs if he was signed by the Steelers. But now he is officially signed. So the details of this, it's a 1-year, $13.6 million contract, $10 million in guarantees, can be worth up to $19.5 million in total incentives. Dalton, we have talked on this very program here about how we're a little skeptical about what's going on in Pittsburgh and sort of just the offensive identity that they might have. And that's been certainly cause for concern without Aaron Rodgers on the roster. But we've even operated with the fact that we knew that this was probably going to happen at some point, and we still didn't really love it. And so I'm curious now that this is official, any updated thoughts at all whatsoever on the Steelers, or do you still have the big causes for concern with their passing attack, given who Rodgers has been over the last couple of years?
Yeah, fitting that we started this show talking about piles of cheese, and now we're going to talk about a couple of ex-Packers. But anyway, I think with Rodgers and the Steelers, I don't look at them, even with Rodgers, any different than I did at the end of the season. You look at their offense last year, and all it was Russell Wilson and George Pickens chucking up go balls and trying to just manufacture points that way, and it was kind of high variance in that sense. Now, I think the difference is Rodgers might be, a little shorter in the passing game and a little more efficient and accurate underneath, but last year he struggled to throw the ball vertically down the field for the Jets, and, you look at the same shortage of weapons. You replace Pickens with DK Metcalf, and you've got, honestly, Metcalf, I would take him over Pickens as a player, but they're a very similar style, and I don't think he's so much better that it's a substantial upgrade. And there's a lack of depth at receiver. There's major questions at offensive tackle, maybe even more so than there were with the Jets last year and going into this year if he were to stay. So I really don't look at this team any differently. Their defense is going to have them competing for a wild card spot. Rodgers, he can still get up there and read the line of scrimmage and make his reads, and maybe there will be less variance to this passing offense than there was last year when it was so reliant on the deep ball. But Russell Wilson also had the best deep passing grade in the league last year, so he made it work. This doesn't do much for me. It just feels like the Steelers are stalling 1 year at a time, and they're going to try to continue to win a lot of games with their defense, especially the defensive line. I don't see where the flow of this offense comes from, and Rodgers only offers at this point. We've seen it 2022, he was just decent. Last year, he was just decent with a boatload of volume. I don't think this offers the ceiling for the Steelers to compete with Baltimore, with Buffalo, with Kansas City, with the elite teams in the AFC.
Over the last 2 years, Rodgers' 2.72 time to throw average, one of the quicker time to throw averages in the NFL, and I think that we saw this with Brady when he got to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and the Bucs had a pretty good offensive line in front of Tom Brady, but he didn't want to take hits, and especially that last season that he was in Tampa Bay, not that I would say the main issues of the offense were Tom Brady's fault, because I don't think that that's the case, but I don't think that he was blameless in their offensive struggles either, because he really he would not hold on to the ball. It was basically like, this thing's coming out in 3 seconds, I'm not getting hit anymore. I'm over 40 years old, and Aaron Rodgers is over 40 years old now, I believe. Right? He's over 40?
He is 40. He's 40 now, yes.
He's right at 40.
He'll be 41 in December, I think.
Okay, so, he's sort of along the same timeline, and we kind of saw it from Rodgers, especially with him coming off of the Achilles injury. He just doesn't want to take hits, and that's what was so perplexing for us when we talked about the Steelers' offense in Arthur Smith's offense of like, okay, you had DK Metcalf, you traded for DK Metcalf, and you had George Pickens on the roster. These are two hold on to the ball a while, throw the deep ball type of wide receivers, which actually would have worked really well for Russell Wilson, and that's why Russell Wilson was still able to be pretty productive because of that offensive philosophy last year. But that's not really how Rodgers wants to play the game, and unfortunately, for as much as I think that DK Metcalf is a good wide receiver, fourth separation percentile against all coverages over the last 2 years specifically. Now, Davante Adams wasn't really that much better. I think he was 28th percentile in total separation versus all coverages. But at least Davante Adams knows how to win very quickly. When he creates separation, he can create separation out of his releases off of press coverage. Metcalf isn't really that type of receiver. Metcalf is like, okay, I'm going to create my separation by running 9 routes and post routes deep down the field, and I'm still going to be a 50-50 guy, but at least hopefully my athleticism, my long speed will be able to create that separation if I can get off the line of scrimmage clean. And so if it works, great. But there's just not a lot of what we have seen over the last couple of years that make you feel good about this specific connection, other than the fact that, okay, Aaron Rodgers is not Mason Rudolph. Okay, Aaron Rodgers is not a 6th-round rookie in Will Howard. That's the positives here, but independent of those two things, it's hard for me to look at this and think that it's an ideal pairing with him going to the Steelers.
It just makes me feel like with Mason Rudolph starting, there's not a chance I would have picked them to make the playoffs. This makes me think about, okay, maybe if I'm making a prediction, they make the playoffs like last year and lose in the first round. But I just don't see this team as any better than they were last year. And honestly, Wilson had a better passing grade. He could work the ball vertically down the field last year. I don't even see how there's a chance that this could even be worse than last year, and especially based on the way we saw Rodgers play for most of the year last year. Now he's going behind a line that is even worse in pass protection, has major questions at offensive tackle. It doesn't move me at all. It just goes, okay, for me, it's just the Steelers keep themselves in wild card contention, but they're still, to me, even with Rodgers, they're nowhere near Baltimore. And honestly, they're still in that tier. Cincinnati obviously has other issues, but at least they have Joe Burrow. I think that's really the tier you're talking about, is the wild card second tier 8 to 10 win kind of group in the AFC that you have with some other teams like Houston, like Cincinnati, like maybe the Chargers and Denver, and teams in that grouping where they were last year. It doesn't really improve them in any way.